All right, looks like that final reminder went out, so hopefully everybody will be joining us or joining us shortly, but I'll go ahead over our introduction and we'll get started for today's NCLUG Tech Talk. Thanks everybody for joining us. Today the webinar is with NCDOT on alignments and annotation, and Oak's going to be our presenter today. But before we get started, just
I'm doing a seminar.
go over our housekeeping rules. First is to be muted, and I think I hear somebody on there now. I need to mute them. So if you're not muted, please mute your mic. Sorry, I'm muting somebody. And during any time, you can submit a question in the chat box if you have a question, and we'll try to answer it as either as we go along or at the end. And at the end, we'll open it up for questions. This webinar will be recorded and we'll share it on our NCLUG website after the event. And we will be offering PDH credits for those who have registered for the event officially on our website. After the session, we'll be sending out the PDH credits. But you will not get any PDH credits for just viewing the presentation. So with that, I think that's all the housekeeping rules I have for now. I'm going to hand it over to Oak. Oak, appreciate you presenting again today.
All right. Thank you, Patty. Welcome, everybody, to today's Tech Talk on alignments and annotation, and we'll get started right away. So from now on, you notice I'm just going to use the 1010 and 1010 workspaces because I'm finding myself not going into the 10.9 development as much as when 1010 came out. So first of all, just want to know where are alignments and annotation and how they, tied together, I guess. So I'm going to use a no workspace, no workset. I should have changed this. It won't let me. So the feature definition pretty much controls both the alignments and annotation here. So we'll go into the feature definition to see how that is set up. In the feature definition library under NCDOT here, it's a little bit slow every time I share the screen, but we'll get to this. Okay, so to get the feature definition, I'll just go under Explorer here. And I'm in this library. I'm in this DGN library. So the feature definition for alignments is stored under NCDOT here. You got existing and proposed. You have several feature definitions for the different various type. And some argument can say, why not just have one type? And it's pretty much my usual response was always, well, if you have more than one type, there's more control, and there's certain settings like the spacing between tick marks and stuff that, the main line L versus wide line versus loop and so forth, can be different. So that's why I kind of set, have different type of alignment feature definition for the various type of facilities that you may encounter, because it depends on some annotations, mostly some of the annotation we use. So we can take a look at like the main line alignment center line. In here, it spells out the symbology, the feature symbology that is used for the horizontal and the vertical here. So I'm using a feature symbology called HAL, for the horizontal and for the vertical of this feature definition, I'm using a val or vertical alignment, horizontal alignment here. So what that does is under feature symbologies here and under linear alignment, you'll find the symbology there. So let's look at what's there. This is where you define the annotation group. How is this alignment labeled horizontally as how or val? Um, so it this is where you set the annotation group to that feature definition called alignment centerline. Okay, it's right here, and then what that does is go to the annotation group here under Explore, the plan, and notice you have um, drawing and linear. So anything you do in design model is linear. Anything that's created in the drawing model is the drawing annotations. So things I would expect to see is choosing your, when you create your plan sheet, here's a selection of your NAD north arrow designation and some of the things that goes with match lines and so forth. That goes in the drawing model. But what we're interested in here is when we annotate this alignment in the design model, some of the stuff we want to, how do you want to lay it out? So it's this horizontal alignment layout feature here. And we can look at the manage properties, because if you look properties here, it's not going to tell you too much about it because it's just this is what it is. But you want to manage it to see what the settings are. Okay, so the settings, here is each one of these is an annotation definition. Okay, so you have a annotation group here. This is the annotation group. These are annotation definitions. Okay, so here, this definition is for a station tick mark minor. I want to do every 100-foot increments. And so I set the settings here, and so forth. So this is where it tells, what are you trying to annotate here? Here I'm doing tick marks. Uh, what element template will I be using? Well, I'll use these, uh, to show the symbology, the element template here. Let's hook up to your element templates, um, and so forth. And you'll find some of these may have, if you're doing a text annotation like bearing labels, you're going to have a text styles and text favorite that's pulled from a DGN library of a text style is pretty much just what fonts and size things are your text labels are going to be placed on, and your text favorite is what is the actual thing that you are looking at to label. This in this case is the bearing of the tangent on my alignment here. So we build these in another library of, we have a library of text favorites and text styles in our workspace for that. So it's just calling those sets of values. So if you look at the our workspace here under 1010, most of the text styles and text favorites are stored under NCDOT um, for everybody, because text favorites and text styles are still one of those features in um, MicroStation or ORD that needs to be shared at the NCDOT level, and we can't keep it at the unit level, because once the text styles and text favorite, well, text favorite once it's used, it's not saved in the file. It's still linked to this library, and I have a Surface tick SR ticket out for that. Said anytime you use a text favorite, just like a level or a line style or a text style, even dimension style, you use that resource from a library, it should be saved in active file. But text favorite is one of those oddity that is not saved in the file. It's still linked. So that's why we have it at the NCDOT level here. So, here's row A text favorites, text styles, and text dimensions are stored in this library. So we just pull, there's NCDOT one, just the one here. We just pull those text styles and text favorite and put it in here in our settings here, annotation. So, annotation can be anything that we want to annotate. And you can see a preview of what you uh, here, and you can, like if I highlight this, and then this is, it should highlight the major tick mark, which you probably can't see because it's highlight the minor. Yeah, any these days, you should be able to, when you select it, it should turn yellow for you, like here, or red, or I say hide, didn't I say highlight? You see, it should turn yellow. And the text depends on your annotation skill. That I set it too low, is full size, so you don't see the text. But that's how you would set up an annotation group based on the various annotation definitions. And you notice here's annotation definition heading. The same rows here, they're all stored in here. So, that's how alignments and annotation are hooked up or tied together. Okay. So to use this, I store this in the library. Now the users can use this in the actual file. So let me get out of this and say I'm a user. Um, I'm working on a project or training or any file here that I want to use what you set up as a feature definition and annotation groups, and what are the various ways I can change things around if I need to modify them. So here, let me go to plan sheet 8. And there's a little bit of quirkiness to the first, let me show you. I try to name some of these folder exactly what you'll see in project wise and what the new folder structures are. So we need to go to where the actual alignment, where the alignments is stored. So like in case of L here. And I have to do this 2 times because anytime I switch workspaces or uh, row here, I have to, the first time it doesn't load everything uh, here. So let me close this and open the same file again, so make sure it loads up here. And this only happens when you switch rows or workspaces. If you're all day working the same, workspace and row, and you just going from one file to another, it doesn't happen. The only time this happens, like I said, when you switch a row or switch a workspace is when I find out that you have to load up the second time to get everything to load. That's one of the quirks, I guess. Okay, so in my um, alignment file here, you notice here here's there's two models, microstation models. There's this default model and this 3D model here. The 3D model is the profile aspect of this horizontal alignment. Okay. Anytime you introduce a vertical component to it or a terrain model to that 2D file, the software will create a 3D default 3D model in the background there for you. Okay. So here's the 2D view um, of that alignment here. Notice my feature definition. I'd say it should be ALG centerline. So there, it knows, how to annotate it just because I have this feature definition. Remember, it goes and reads the feature definition. What is the annotation group that is set with it to be able to annotate or label this alignment or lay out this alignment here? Okay, and sometimes if you had an older file that had older annotations in there, and if you were in a DSN file and you reference this ALG file here, it the new annotation from the workspace doesn't get loaded here because it still saved the old annotation group here. Just go to your Explorer, select the file here, and do an update standards from DGN library. What that does is sync all the feature definition level, all the element templates, all the annotation groups, all the annotation symbologies to what's current to the workspace. Okay, so it's reading the workspace and sync it to what's stored here in this, but the text favorites and stuff is still members linked. It's not saving in this file. Okay. So that's something to look out for. If your annotation doesn't look right or anything, you have to go to the ALG file, not the file that you're annotating from, like a DSN. I'll show you in a minute. So most of the time, we'll be working off the roadway design DSN. So this is where we recommend you annotate your alignment. So the ALG and the master ALG and all that doesn't really control your, I guess the annotation. It doesn't really control the annotation. One of the, I guess, it, I guess not an issue, but the question I had early on was, when I'm annotating this, why is it, why can't I change what's in here? Why do I have to go to the ALG file to change, the stuff I need to change there? Well, like I said, it goes with the feature definition. This file reference this alignment here. This alignment doesn't exist in this file, so it exists in the ALG file. This DSN file just referenced that ALG file. So that's why you have to make the changes in the ALG, not in this active DSN file. Okay. So here I have my ALG here. My DSN file, and all this is coming from my CMD, my slope stakes, my edge of travel, my DSN element stuff. All this comes from my CMD. So I reference that. I reference my alignment. I reference my topo files here. Okay. And this is where I would annotate. So to annotate the my main line here, I just say annotate element here. And I'm going to use override that. Yep. So just select that and reset, and it should annotate here. So that's where and I'll do this again, just to say it's not all smoke and mirrors here. So I'm going to annotate element here. So remember, I showed you earlier the feature definition. Well, it knows this is the feature definition and knows how to annotate it based on that feature definition setting. It belongs to a certain annotation group, and this is the annotation group that uh, labeled this, the spire data, and so forth. So your curve data, your spiral data, and this stuff still doesn't work. The spiral curve spiral data. uh, the in 10.9 you had a defect where um, if you move certain things, like your curve data to a certain place, and you get out of the file, uh, get back into the same file, it moves it back to the default state. So that's fixing 10.10. Now you can move this anywhere you want, and it stays there on your, the area where you last left it. And there's going to be more uh, ways to do this, more ways to control some of the annotation, because face it, when we give you a default annotation group, that's just going to meet 50% of your needs. So say, well, I need to move this, I need to rotate this, I need to do stuff, get it out of some object way, or on top of this, like here, I want to move it somewhere else. And in 10, in 10.10, it's a little bit better, where it won't revert back to its own self once you get a file, but more future releases ORD will allow you to do a lot more stuff. But I'll show you some of the cool things you could do with Civil Labeler in the meantime. So like here, I have two alignments. I have the L and the Y line. So I could do the same thing here on the Y line here, annotate element here. And you see it's kind of, this leader line is longer than this leader line, because and the spacing between the tick marks is different. Uh, this is 1,000-foot spacing, and this is, you know, the major tick marks is 500. Uh, so it labels all this for you automatically based on the annotation group that it was assigned. But in the past now, say, well, I really want this to flip to the right here. So is there a option that you had to do? Well, in 10.9, you had this option of uh, choosing a different assigned annotation group to this minor roadway, which a Y line is here. So let me uh, remove annotation here. Okay. Now remember what I said, and you have to go back to your alignment file to change anything but the annotation group of that alignment. So I'll go back to my Y11 here and go to Explore, and under feature definition, uh, feature symbology, linear alignment, and the HAL MR, minor road, and under here, so it's assigned to a horizontal alignment layout minor right. So I want to flip this to the left here. I will choose this. And this is what you have to do in 10.9. But in 10.10, I'll show you a better way. But let's do this. And then, if I change this to left here, save settings, and go back to my DSN file, and now annotate the same alignment, I would expect that to flip the other way to the left, which it does, but some of these things I need to fix. Um, Oh, remember what I said. Here. Sometimes it doesn't take the immediately. Uh, I have to start it the second time. It's I'm working my nerve to submit a service request to Bentley that fix this permanently. I don't have to launch the file twice when I'm switching. I'm out there. I didn't even switch rows or work set. I'm just switching file, and it didn't load everything that it need. Okay, let's try this again. So annotate element here. Hmm. Yeah, something I chose something wrong with this. But that annotation group was supposed to flip the station and tick mark back to the right. It did a little bit, but it's not doing exactly what I wanted to do. But now you just saw me going to my alignment file and have to change the annotation group here. So in 1010, there's a better way to override it. Is a override annotation group. So just because the feature definition assign it to a annotation group in the DGN library doesn't mean you have to stick with that and have to go to that ALG file to change it. There's a override option in 1010 now. So here, um, I'll select here, but there's a checkbox here in 1010 that says override annotation group. So I'm going to do that, and I can now pick any annotation group uh, here that I want to use. And uh, the 3CPO one is I created those there, and some people still are kind of confused why these are here. So I'm just going to choose the 3CPO here. 3CPO is, I was trying to be smart. I thought the guy in the Star Wars thing was 3CPO, but somebody told me it's something else. It's not 3CPO, it's CP30 or something like that. But I just got the number and the letter mixed up. But construction class, 3CPO is construction class cardinal point option. So what that does is I'm going to annotate everything except for the cardinal points for you. You come in another method called silver labeler or place label and move your annotation anywhere you like it or rotate them in anywhere. So I'm going to use this 3CPO option for my minor line. Let's look at what that looks like. Choose that again. Yes. Okay. So what that does is label everything for me, but you see in my stations here, I put it in the construction class. That won't get printed out. So now I can come back in with like a place label tool here. In 1010, we have place label 2 here. And I want to label that PC there. Place label. And then, you know, tag on this line, turn it up to that point, and put my labels, out of the way here and there. Same station. I put these here just to check. They're the same station, 13 1130, 13 1130 here. Okay. And the good thing about this is now, say, well, I didn't really like the way, you know, I placed that. So can I move it, rotate it, and everything else? And of course, the answer is yes. You can select. Ooh, no, that's there's something I'm missing here, but let's see. Yeah, move. Yeah, so I can move this anywhere. I can move to the other side here, you know, and it will, follow that for me. So that's the good thing about the civil labor is you move it to anywhere you want to, have it uh, there, and uh, it is, you know, put put the labels where you want it. In other words, instead of me putting it in the annotation group of where I think it should go, a standard place, you determine where it goes. Okay, so that's how I would try to use some of this. I'll use the 3CPO annotation group where it just labels everything except for your cardinal points, uh, and your stationing and information is in a construction class element, which will never plot it out. I put it there so you can verify when you do place the label in there that it's the same number. Okay, so um, I have this annotated here. So what else goes into the annotation of horizontal alignment? So you remember in the feature definition, I showed you the drawing in um, the linear annotation group. So this is the linear part. Uh, it labels the linear alignment information of the horizontal aspect in your design model. So in your drawing model, say, um, let me go to my uh, layout sheet. So each project has a work set folder and a PPL, or a plan profile layout file .dgn that we share with everybody, all NCDOT units here. So here, I have the labels here. Again, all this is reference here. Alignments, annotations, whatever. DRN, slope stakes, right away, whatever. You have, it's all here. So, and I'm about to make the sheets here. So, to do that, I'll go under sheet drawing production here, place name boundary. Mode is set to sheets, and my drawing sheets here, I'm gonna do 50 scale. And I'm gonna use my horizontal alignment here. And just gonna do, I'm not gonna do all the sheets here. I'm just gonna do just a few here. At least capture the this first curve here on my main line. And here is where the second step of when creating this drawing models for my sheets here. This the drawing model. Here's the sheet model aspect of it. Here's where I want you to select your NAD designation here. So I'm going under drawing, pick my NAD designation here. This annotation group for the drawing model annotates, place the north arrow in here with the NAD designation and your match lines. Okay, so I'll choose. I'm not just going to choose, NAD 27. Okay, so I'm going to create this sheet here. Let's look at what's actually is set with the drawing model, drawing annotation model. So it's going to process and create the sheets here. Okay, so the sheet, uh, okay, I did it in this file. There's an option there. I forgot to show you that you can do it, you know, make the sheet and drawing model in a different file than this PPL file. And that's what we probably recommend you do. Create the sheets and model uh, in the drawing models in a different file from the layout file. But you can see these gray uh, picture or icons are drawing models. The white are sheet modules. And the design model is this default and default 3D. Okay, so we can look at like the plan sheet one here. So that's the sheet one. Not sure what happened up here. Um, Drawing model, and you can see the north arrow here is placed, and then the match line. So this is your drawing model from that clip boundary there, and then your sheet. This drawing model is then referenced to the sheet here, and you can see there. Okay, so that's what's annotated in the drawing model. So what we can do here, we can do a bulk. Let's go to the drawing model here. So um, we can do right here, remove drawing model annotation. So you know, sometimes you probably have to do this. Um, you can see now the match line and no fair went away. Okay, if you made a mistake, say, oh, I really need to annotate drawing model, and I want to choose a different NAT designation than 27. I'll use you know, that there. You can see the north arrow in the match lines. So the drawing model annotates the plan sheets, match lines, and the puts the NAD designation north arrows in here. And your linear is controlled through your in your design model, which is this guy here. That's controlled in here. Okay, so linear and drawing, and then the sheets is a reference from your drawing model. Okay, so that's pretty much for your um, plan sheet. So let's look at your horizontal alignment here. Okay, so remember I said this is all reference here. I can do a plan and profile view of this center line here. So that's what the profile looked like of this main line L here. But you notice since this is reference here, a lot of our guys early on says, well, I wish I could just tag onto what is this station here? What's the PC? What's the PT vertical uh, station here? When I tag on this, nothing happens. I show it. But so in 1010, we have a annotate profile. It's a temporary annotation here. It doesn't go into the drawing when you create the profile sheet. It's just something visual that you can do here. So I'm gonna click on this. Okay. I remember something about first time doing this doesn't work. Okay, I'm not sure why, but sometimes doing the second time, loading files the second time works. Yeah, I know it's a pain, but
Oak, while that loads up, I don't want to throw off your rhythm here. You're probably not monitoring the chat. There are some questions coming in. Are you going to wait and just address those at the end?
yeah, I'll do that. Try to leave some time at the end there. Okay, annotate. Well, it was working before. I'm not sure why, but
I think I
gives,
got to pick an annotation group. Looks like I think that's blank. Try it again.
well, it's override.
Yeah,
override
pick one.
annotation.
Pick one. See where it's see the three dots in there? It says over
Yeah.
annotation group.
Yeah. Yeah, those are horizontal stuff. Yeah, there should not be an override. uh, there should not be an override. I remember doing this the first time it didn't work. Uh, let's go back to my ALG file here. Let's do Y line. Okay, let's try this. Now, if I'm in the actual ALG file, I can actually, it's part of my context menu here to annotate it. So, it doesn't want me to do that. It worked before. I'm not sure why it doesn't. See this override annotation group here? That's for plan sheets, and it says profile here. Did profile now? Yeah, annotation profile. Yeah. Well, there you go. Okay. So that's supposed to show up just like the when I was in my PPL file. You see, this is not it's just a straight line. It's not a VPI with the grade in here, but it's labels it fine. And this gives you a little bit more information now than what you had before. So that's what's new in 10.10 here. And let me just, maybe it'll work now. Remove annotation from here. And let me go to my PPL here again. Client profile. I did the wildlife, didn't I? Let's see. Okay. Since I'm referencing that, it's not part of my context menu anymore. Since it's a reference, so it's not part of my context menu. Okay, so let me pick that. Again, if I try annotation group here, it's just plan. Okay, so I don't know if I should. One, maybe. Yeah, it's not gonna cooperate with me today. But yeah, it works. I'm not sure with this data set why it wouldn't. But you can temper and annotate this. So, but the majority of the annotation for profile is going to happen in your drawing model. So let's create the profile sheet here. It's a dual 50 scale, maybe. Yeah. And station limits, yes. And I don't have to do anything here. It's already set with my seed. And so the annotation here goes, you know, here with your drawing model. So let's go to my drawing model here. Oops, not the plan, profile, drawing model. So that's the top one here. And I couldn't get this to work too much, so I'm just gonna type that in. Somehow the text favorites for alignment name, profile alignment name doesn't take. So that's kind of workaround for now that I probably use. And just like any labeler, you can move it. So but I don't expect too many changes to the annotation group, to the profile. So I'm just I'm not offering too much of a 3 CPO option here. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. Just put it there. Also, the something that might come up is, how do I label profile grades that I may get from Hydro? So we may develop some kind of silver labeler to label the ditch profiles here that we show on the profile sheet. And you do this in the drawing, I guess, and that gets reflected to your sheet there. So whatever you do here shows up on your sheet. Okay. And that's all I really want to cover as far as the horizontal and vertical alignments and how they're annotated. There were some questions you said, Jason, in the chat there.
Yeah, and I'll read them off to you, Oak.
Okay, all right.
The first one is, if you move the curve data and then you change the alignment, if you change the radius or spiral lengths or anything like that, is the curve data going to automatically update?
Yes. So,
and I was also going to ask another question. I know once you lay these sheets out, sometimes we need to label that curve data on multiple sheets. Do you just copy that curve data, but that will also update too?
yeah, so that is that's in the next release of 10.10, the release 2. There's an enhancement here. I really want to show you first. Let's look at annotation. So I'm gonna go to my file where I can change to my alignment here. Okay, you're not supposed to do this, but I'm gonna label, my alignment file here. Yeah, okay. Drawing production.
Well, I think that was another question. So when annotating the file, I guess you're supposed to do that in the drawing file, not this alignment file?
Yeah, so alignment here, you want to do it in the DSN. You don't want to do it in the AOG. Here.
Okay.
Nothing goes in the AOG except for your horizontal vertical alignment and your reference to the existing terrain model. Okay, so here is just demo. Here I have a curve data here. This curve happens to be 6,000 foot here. So if I want to change this to, 5,000 maybe. let's change 5,000 foot. See how that curve data changed there. And you can move this around and still retain its intelligence. You know, nothing is broken just by moving it or rotating it. So,
but if you copy it, it doesn't necessarily hold its, or does it?
that's coming. So
Okay.
in the 10.10.20 release in our White Space Management Innovation Council meeting, there's a new feature that you can copy certain things and it will retain the information in there. But also there's another part to that question here is, you know how we labeling here in the design model, the black background design model here. Well, in 10.10.20, there's another option of where I can go to my sheet here, my drawing here. I can label this in my drawing model, whether it be the profile plan sheet. We can look at the drawing model plan sheet here. See, let me go and turn off the DSN file here. So if I turn off the label that's in my DSN file here, oh, I should have, yeah, so my ALG file, I left the label there, which I shouldn't have done. So remove annotation here. Okay, go to my PPL file here. So all labels are detached from the design. Okay, so we don't have labels here. And I go to my drawing model here. What sheet was that? 4 maybe, 3 or 4. And we could do it here. So I want to annotate this from my drawing model. I could do this the same way. So in the next release of 10.10.20 here, I can annotate my alignment from my drawing model.
Oak, one of the other questions was if we had a file created in 10.09 or earlier and we upgrade ORD to 10.10, will work for files created beforehand? Example, not move, reset annotations anymore. Sorry.
No, there's I think the annotation is still good. You can update from library to make it current, but whatever you had there when you upgrade the file, it should not lose its data. But
Okay.
in the next release of 10.10, which is 10.10.20, you're able to do this and without seeing all this stuff. It's just labeled within your clip boundary or your name boundary here. You know, you can annotate within. There's something screwed up there. But yeah, you could just annotate from your drawing. It will only label that part within the drawing model here. You know, the advantage of that is like the question was alluded to was, well, suppose I had a curve data that falls on this sheet and the next sheet, but it's in my design model, it's just labeled on the next sheet. I want to have the same curve data here, so I can actually just do annotation here. If that curve is part any part over here in this sheet is going to create this curve data for it here too. So that's the advantage of the new 1010.20 things that we'll can expect to see is when you do annotation from the drawing model. The first question is should you do it? You know, if you decide to do it in the drawing model, you have that option.
Another question we had was,
Yeah,
I
see
guess
right there.
the main line's labeled at 1,000 spacing, label
Yeah.
spacing,
Yeah, the major.
and the Y lines are at 500.
Yes.
I guess why is that? Is that, I mean, that's kind of something
That's
new.
because the L line is usually long, and we can, do that. It's just the major tick marks. Your minor tick mark is still 100 foot apart.
But it just won't put a major label, but every 1,000 feet instead of every
Major
500.
label tick mark.
Yeah.
Major label tick mark. It's just the tick mark. That's like a major tick mark will be this guy here. The minor will be that guy.
But then that's a new standard every 1,000 feet.
Well, it's just
Or what?
different. I don't think it's a standard. It's just different.
Okay.
Having different annotation groups with 2 different annotation feature definition allows us to do that. I mean, you can see the potential, like when you annotate loop alignment, the loops alignment are not that long and they're circular. So, did you really want, 500 foot major tick marks? That's the whole loop pretty much. So yeah, I mean, so we can break it down to some increment that meets those specific alignment types.
But I think we still want that major tick mark every 500 feet on the main line.
No, that's still is achievable. I mean, you still want that.
I don't know if we're talking about tick marks or the actual labeling of the cardinal stations.
Yeah, the cardinal station doesn't matter. It's 500. It is what it is. The cardinal station is not to any increment.
Well, I'm talking about labeling it. We want a cardinal label every 500 feet, not every 1,000. Tick mark and label.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
I was just going to read some of the other questions. I think somebody just made a comment that in a project they were using ORD, they made a text.dgn file and referenced the combined ALG files and annotated with that. I guess had a DGN just for text.
Yeah, it's just you can. The important thing is, remember, you can reference the ALG and you can annotate it from a reference file. That's all that is saying is the ALG sits unannotated, and then you can reference a file, whether it a DSN or a text file or whatever. It's the external file that you reference the ALG, and you're annotating using that for annotation. I mean, you'll see annotation in other files like the CMD, like when we did guardrail, we labeled the guardrail right in the CMD.
So another question is, how do we predefine or edit the font text size for the annotation before we do the actual alignment profile annotations like we could do in the DNC Geopack?
I guess if you want to customize or change the text fonts and so forth, you need to do it at the DGN library level, or after you place it, that text style, unlike the text favorite, is stored in the active file. So let me go back to my DSN here, where I have this label here. See this this annotation group, since it's written in this DSN file, is part of is saved in this active file here. So I would go in here and change the annotation group in this file here. See, now this I can change, like here, well, the bearing label, say bearing label. See, I will change the text style here, have a predefined text style here, or, you can go to any text editor or text style manager here. Where is that? Here. And, change fonts or whatever to the style that you want to use that saving this active file. So anything that's in the active file here is probably bold. So I'm not, I don't see one that's saving this file. This is all still reference, but you can change if that text style is saved here, you can change it, change the fonts here. But this is still reading. These fonts are still reading from a library. Okay.
All right. There's another question. Is there a date for when NCDOT is officially updating to 1010?
Not a date, but I think Jeff mentioned a couple of times near the end of this year, maybe.
Okay.
We are in development stage of the 1010 workspace. If you guys are interested, and I'm supposed to have this out in ProjectWise, but yeah, we have a in our web page here. You can get this workspace, the latest workspace here under technical support, and this will all be moved to the CAD services web page soon. And the files here, the last one here, the NCDOT workspace 1010 page here, that has 4 units that has upgraded workspaces: NCDOT, roadway, utilities, and hydro has the 1010 workspace update. And I accidentally did photogrammetry. I apologize, but photogrammetry is always an update, and that is meant for just starting out, and they would take this base workspace and begin their development. And when we get ProjectWise working, everything will come out ProjectWise.
All right. We've got a couple more questions here or comments. So Dean Sarvis commented that I guess the annotating in the alignments in the DSN, I guess, is maybe different than what's been written in the module 1. And I guess he was just commenting that might need to rewrite that.
Yeah, I mean, people mention, well, I have a separate text file for annotation. Well, you could do that too. I mean, there's
Okay.
various ways you can annotate as long as you realize it's all reference. I could reference my ALG. I just whether you put it in a text file, you put it in the DSN or the CMD, it's just referenced of the ALG. And don't do the annotation ALG, so like what I showed you.
All right. Interchanges often have odd shaped sheet layouts combined with using the larger interchange detail sheets.
Yeah.
Will this be required moving forward? I mean, we're still planning on doing interchange larger detail sheets.
That was recently talked about, and there it's to fit the scale, and I just said, well, why not just put 100 scale sheet on there on the interchange? And I think it's something that we probably need to discuss a little bit more. But in the interchanges, I would expect to use the 3 CPO option, the construction class cardinal point option, where I would put the tick marks and the labeling in there for you, but I would not label the cardinal stations and stuff. I'll let you do that with the place civil labeler command, so you can move it, rotate it to everywhere you want to.
And the idea with it being annotation scale, it would just automatically scale whether it's 50 or 100. The text
Yeah,
automatically
exactly.
scales up and down. Yeah.
But your design model is still 50. But when you place the 100 scale sheet border or the sheet boundary, name boundary in there, it just make twice the size
Yeah.
of your regular 50 scale sheet.
Okay.
And then and you shrink it down to 1 inch goes on your feet in your sheet model.
Will NCDOT lock the annotation DGN library files so we can't change them
Well,
to hold to NCDOT
yeah.
standards,
Now
or?
we want to standardize it, and that's why it's in the library. So anytime you update the library or update your workspace, it's going to update your library, whatever you may change it to. But again, that doesn't stop you. Once you downloaded your workspace, on your C drive, you can do whatever you want with that DGN library. But we really want you to stick to what we set as a standard way to show things. Because sometimes we do have a certain way we want to show information on the plan sheets and so forth. I mean, we just
Yeah.
had some example of like the the AW transport people and AWP folks saying, well, I want the stations and alignment to be in certain format. I don't want this variation of things that you can do. So to control that, we set it as an annotation group. This is the format we want you to use and show it, on the plans. Now, whether you choose to edit that or modify it, that's your business.
Yeah. All right. Well, if anybody has any additional questions, you can feel free to place them in the chat box or raise your hand and I'll call on those that still have some questions. Oak, we really appreciate you stepping through this. I'm sure there's still a lot more questions to be answered or had on doing this and as we go along.
Yeah, there will be, like I say, when that 1010 come out, 1010.20 come out pretty soon, there you'll see a lot more enhancement to the annotation group, to white space management, as what they call them.
I think somebody commented some DOTs are removing the manage option from the pull down menu.
Manage of what?
I'm not sure if that was Brian Caldwell that asked that question. If you want to unmute yourself and clarify, that'd be fine. Annotations.
Yeah, Oak, You know, where you're going through there in a DGN lib and you're going there and you're showing the different styles where you right click and hit that manage button. A lot of the
Yeah.
DOTs are taking that option out. That doesn't show up. You can't get to that.
Really?
Yeah, TDOT's doing that, Tennessee DOT. You can't, the
Really?
manage button does not show up. You cannot change any of this currently. Now, whether they stick with that or not, I don't know. But,
Yeah.
yeah. That's how they're holding their standards.
Man, I could see, but
Now you can change anything, like you said, anything that's written in that sheet, like you're talking about. Once it's written in that file, you can actually change it in that file.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking.
Right, but you can't change their overall labeling of all the sheets, like if you wanted to make it so.
Editing the library directly is what you're saying. Yeah.
Right.
I could see that. I mean, the purpose of a library is here. We got a standard we want you to follow. Don't try to change this if you don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's why I was asking. Yeah.
But I'm, as far as I know, I don't have anything in the workspace that locks that right now in our workspace. There may be some on the other DOT stuff.
Well, yeah, I use lock loosely. They just removed the option. I'm sure you can probably figure out how to get it back, but I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have some questions they want to ask Oak? Now's your chance.
Yeah, you guys like the new Regalia curb and gutter line?
Oh.
Yeah, so a lot of people complain there's too many red stuff, all this
Uh-huh.
label and red. So I said, okay, I'll just change this to Regalia in commensurating Bill Elam and his Clemson Tiger people. So this is a Clemson Tiger Regalia color.
Okay.
It's purplish, bluish. And
Yeah.
that's when you do the update from standards from DG Library. That's what, if you had it red before in 10.9 and you update standards from DG Library, there it'll turn this to the new color, curb and gutter color.
Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap this NCLUG call up. We appreciate everybody calling in. Just a reminder, we'll be sending out PDH credits in the next coming weeks. And I think we have some more NCLUG talks coming up. I think Bill Elam's got one next week on ORD drainage. So be sure to sign up for that. And I think an invite just went out for another event on November 3rd for plan productions and sheetings will be coming up.
Yeah,
so
and this gets into that. I didn't want to show you too much because one of the things Jason Moore talked about was, well, somebody may ask about the cross-section annotation. Well, that's not really alignment. That's what gets to the sheeting stuff. So that is the best way to get introduced to the sheets and sheet indexing part of the next topic.
I'm looking forward to it. Okay. Well, Oak, we appreciate you taking your time and going through this and doing this demo for us.
Okay.
And thanks to DOT.
Yeah.
For all the work.
Yep. That'll do it.
All right. Well, we will see you guys in the next Tech Talk. Thanks for joining us today. You'll have a good week.
Thanks, everybody.